So the appreciation of having a partner that even if we don't completely agree, at least we can get to a good result. And I know like and now I'm super gun shy about other partnerships, but I can also see that while it can be challenging, I also don't think I'd be here at all without a
Mm,
partner. So like it's easy to
mm.
complain about them, but I'd rather just try to appreciate the good parts of it. Same
Yeah.
with my marriage and the partnership and everything that Allison's been through and helped me through all this stuff. So I hope it's given me a better appreciation for the things that work well.
Welcome to the EO Business Podcast, where we dive into the minds of extraordinary entrepreneurs shaping business and life on their own terms. I am your host, Linh Podetti, and today I'm joined by a true creative entrepreneur, Mike Arzt, an EO Colorado USA member for over 11 years, co founder of the Public Works and Battery621. Mike started his journey behind the lens in the snowboarding industry and went on to co build one of Denver's most respected creative agencies, partnering with iconic brands like National Geographic and Red Bull. But in this conversation, we go beyond the cool projects. Mike opens up about the real challenges of building a business with partners, the lessons, the tension, the trust, and how to make it work when the stakes are high and the vision is shared. Whether you've got a co founder, you're thinking about bringing one on, or you're navigating a long term business relationship, this episode is packed with honest insights and hard earned wisdom. Now, let's join me in welcoming Mike.
This episode is sponsored by Outsourcing Angel, your partner for skilled offshore staff in LinkedIn marketing, lead generation, customer support, and more. As a social enterprise, we donate 10% of profits to charity and provide heart-centered VAs who go the extra mile for your success. Visit outsourcingangel.com.
Well, welcome to the show, Mike. So great to have you on here.
Yeah, thanks. I'm looking forward to this.
So we spoke earlier, and it was amazing how you even shared a little bit about how your whole family's in NEO. I can't wait to dive deep into that later on. But let's start with your business journey. Let's talk about how you got involved in fabrication and as well as even in the media. It's such a contrasting two businesses.
Yeah. What really started my career was pursuing snowboarding, and I started working for Burton Snowboards in Vermont when I was 18, and that had been my dream since I was a little kid to go work there. And um, so I was more on the marketing side at Burton, but content and capturing those moments and sharing kind of all tied together. So that really it was the combination of loving snowboarding, shooting photos, and marketing. I started working in-house for other companies, but it eventually led me on my own entrepreneurial journey.
So tell me a little bit about the business itself. Like, who do you serve and what kind of services do you do?
Sure. We have two primary businesses. The Public Works is our agency, and then we also own the building that we're in, which is called Battery 621 in Denver, Colorado. And there's about 25 companies in battery, so we're one of the tenants. With the Public Works, we kind of sum ourselves up as a brand storytelling company.
Mm.
And we have a division that's all multimedia, photo, video, branding, and that kind of thing. We also have a division that does design and build actual fabrication. So we have a pretty large fabrication shop. But whether we're using cameras or building things, most of it revolves around really just helping brands get their story out there. And
Mm.
yeah, it's been super fun.
Yeah. So tell me more about the need to kind of build the fabrications yourself rather than outsource. Why did you choose to kind of do both instead of just sticking to most of the time people stick to maybe the media arm and then outsource the other part?
Yeah, so Public Works, we're about to hit 20 years in business. So it's funny looking back at maybe what we were thinking 25 years ago, and we're starting to dream this up. Really, it comes down to the fact that my business partner I met at Burton Snowboards, so quite a while ago, Frank was in charge of prototyping and the engineers, really the design part of the Burton Snowboards company. And I was more on the marketing brand side.
Mm.
I think we had a mix of all sorts of different ideas, but at the end of the day, it was an engineer and a kind of photographer putting our heads together. And I like to just say this is sort of what happened 25 years later. I think when Frank and I started, we saw the Public Works more as this kind of product design and innovation company. So companies come to us and not only want help with launching a new product or designing a new product, but wanted a group that understood the market and how to communicate it. I think that's where we're thinking at the beginning.
Mm.
Red Bull ended up being our first client, and that took us on quite a journey. And the first piece we did for Red Bull, they wanted a very unique custom piece that would go inside this beautiful theater in Aspen while they were having a film festival. So they wanted a brand piece that showcased the brand of Red Bull, the imagery, like still photos could hang on, and it could be in the middle of this theater. And that was the first project we did. Um, and kind of one thing led to another. And we also kind of became this company of like, if you have a crazy idea, call us and we'll figure it out.
Yeah, I love that. And so do you think that it will be the bulletproof against the whole AI trend? Nowadays you see all these tools that can just build videos without an actor, without certain things. Like, is it a threat to you, or are you feeling confident that you can battle this?
I'm always paranoid, so I think I feel threatened by everything. But I'd like to think, the AI is going to help us in places. It's going to be a competitor to us in places, and it's going to change, what we do in some ways. I really love the fact that, when we're doing our like brand storytelling, if we're doing it with cameras, we're getting like so deep into the essence of the company and most often trying to showcase pure authenticity. So I would hope at the level of some of the stuff we're shooting that AI wouldn't replace it, because as soon as it's fake, like maybe AI will support some of that,
Mm,
but as soon as it's fake or fabricated, then I think it kind of defeats a lot of what we're trying to help companies do. And I know some of our clients barely even want to touch it because they're so worried about being inauthentic. Um,
mm,
on the built environment side of things, I hope it helps because, in this world where so much is interaction between a screen, I feel like these like real life personal experiences have even more value to them. So, a lot of the custom built pieces we do might go to, a huge sporting event or the launch of a ski area, or like Red Rocks is a very famous amphitheater here in Colorado. Like we've built pieces for Jeep that display their Jeeps at the top of the amphitheater and kind of match the look of Red Rocks and stuff. Like I feel like that direct connection between brand and real humans in a real way, I hope that actually gets more important and more valuable as the world also has these very, I don't know, digital,
mm.
like computers talking to computers and we're not even involved anymore. So I hope that our personal touches and creativity stay relevant, but I don't know, ask me again in 10 years.
It reminds me of the recent Disney movie, Snow White. I haven't seen it, but there was such a big backlash against the so much digitally advanced, whatever they were using. It wasn't the original style, whatever it was. So yeah, I think it's really about observing what the market wants, and I think the more AI we use, the more people probably just going to crave for the real stuff. So I think
I hope
that's
so.
what's going to happen.
And
Before we deep
we're,
dive in,
I was going to
yeah.
say, we're pretty lucky too that we tend to work with, we've been really lucky that we tend to work with brands that truly cherish their brand experience and their interaction with customers. So whether it's Red Bull or Aspen Skiing Company or Moet Hennessy, I mean, these are like ultra premium brands and premium products that I don't know, like what's Aspen going to do? Do an AI generated ad that's
Mm.
fake of people skiing?
Yeah.
Like that would be the worst thing ever. So I
Yeah,
hope
that's a
hope
really
that
good
helps.
point. I think if you are working with people that don't have a budget issue, then there's, less threat to you. But if obviously you're not dealing with the smaller businesses who is trying to find ways to do things more efficiently, but then sacrificing on quality.
Hmm.
So before we deep dive into even your journey in business and stuff, I wanted to, sorry, actually, I wanted to talk about the partnership topic that we kind of discussed earlier on. I actually wanted to hear a little bit about your growing up journey. Like, were you always wanting to be an entrepreneur? Did you have entrepreneurs in your family? Like, what ignited you to actually wanted to be one in the first place?
Yeah, yes, yes, yes. My dad owned an independent pharmacy in Connecticut, and
Mhm.
so I did get to see him and my mom would help on that business too. The pharmacy that he bought into, it actually opened in 1887, I think. So it was really interesting to see him running this like legacy company. It was a small pharmacy, and now everything's gone very. He got bought out by Walgreens, so it went from being this very independent, standalone pharmacy to being bought out by a big chain. But like I got to see my dad had customers that had their grandparents had been customers of that store. Um, and and I saw how hard he worked, but also how hard he worked to find time for the family. So I did, and his my dad's passion was skiing. So work super hard, and any moment you had, go have fun. And my parents definitely taught me that part. The entrepreneurial part for me, I think, is pretty funny too, because I can remember even in, I don't know, sixth grade or something, so I was probably 10, 12 years old here. Like I would buy candy through my dad's pharmacy at like wholesale pricing and then take it to school and sell it at like premium pricing because then it was in school, right? So I could like
Yes.
500% markup. I think it was probably the best business I ever ran. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, trying to, I think trying to figure out ways to take those passions and turn it into a business was always part of me. And even when I worked for Burton, I think Jake Burton, who founded that company, was one of the best entrepreneurs ever. And he ended up being such an amazing kind of mentor and taught us so much, especially since both my business partner and I met there. Um, but it also taught me that I think you can be entrepreneurial while working for someone. Um, and Burton was very much like that. I was surrounded by people who had this creative entrepreneurial energy. And so many people that I worked with at Burton back in the late 90s have gone on to start their own companies and do other
Mm.
things. So I do think it was always part of the journey.
Yeah. So you've got kids nowadays?
Yeah, I've got a 20-year-old daughter and a 17-year-old son.
Okay. Yeah. I was just going to ask, so has that gene of like loving snowboarding or gene or influence around that and, entrepreneurship, has that passed on to your kids? Or are you nurturing them to become someone like yourself and your dad?
Think so. I would love to hear their answer. They're both they're both super sharp and super savvy and have like a really, really good work ethic. I think
Mm.
we have like a lot of German, kind of Russian background in our family, and I think there's
Yeah.
something about that crazy German gene. Um, but yeah, they're both super focused. I think once again, even if they go and work in house, like I think my daughter's kind of potentially going down this kind of law direction, but I think it's there. And even if she
Mm.
pursues law, starts as a lawyer, I could easily see her eventually owning her own firm, which I think, like, I love that part where you could be a lawyer, but then once you own your own firm, you're also like a business person. One of my former
Mm.
mates has exactly that, and he actually launched a second business that supports lawyers. So I
Mm.
think there's so many different ways to get there, but I really do see it in my kids. And
Yeah.
I think being a Neo, one of the cool things is they've been surrounded by so many other entrepreneurs that they see how many different directions there are to
Mm.
end up on that path. Like you don't have to just start your own business when you're 20 years old and build it up. Like there's a lot of ways to get there. So
Mm. Mm.
I
I
think it's
love it.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I guess for myself, I'm also not that intentionally. I'm just doing what I'm doing and hoping my kids watch it and see what they like out of what I do. And whether or not they start a business or not, yeah, you really can't control that as long as they're doing what they love, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Now let's dive into the topic that we actually wanted to talk about, which is you experience a challenge in your business around the partnership, and there's some lessons that we can learn from that. So, do you want to share a little bit about what happened and how you navigated it?
Sure. So, on our agency side of things, the Public Works, Frank and I have been partners, 50-50 partners since the beginning. About 15 years ago, we bought a 30,000 square foot building in Denver that was like mostly abandoned. And we had this idea of, like a creative workspace that wasn't just our company. We wanted to be surrounded by other companies and people and be able to have parties. That's kind of why we named our agency the Public Works, is because we felt like the more we were surrounded by the public, the better it would work.
Right.
We named the building Battery because of it's sort of like we wanted it to be this like source of energy. And um,
Mm,
so Frank and I have been 50-50 partners the whole time. When we bought the building, we partnered up with another company. It was husband and wife owned. And they were also in sort of the video production world. We had met through the ski industry, and they wanted to move their business from Jackson Hole to Denver so they could grow it and expand.
mm,
Um, and so I don't think we would have ever pulled off buying the building together and this entire thing without that partnership. But as time goes, we've really started to notice some big challenges and differences between the way Frank and I operate and the way the two of those partners operated.
mm,
And we were, even partners, quarter of the business each, four of us. Um, it got pretty rough at the end. And we eventually
mm,
bought them out after
mm,
some mediation and help from lawyers and that kind of thing. Yeah, it was a really tough, challenging time in my life. I thought we were potentially gonna lose a business or have to sell. And the business of battery had been a dream of mine and Frank's for, I mean, as long as we
mm.
it goes so far back. And it's a weird it made me like I haven't been through a divorce. I've been married for 25 years now, but it like gave me this feeling of like this must be what it's like to go through a divorce and potentially if you were going to lose visiting rights or custody
Mm,
forever, like
mm,
so.
mm. Yeah.
Mhm.
So if you were to look back at in hindsight, like what should you have done or what could you have done to avoid that? Or someone else who could be listening and thinking about being in partnership or early on in the partnership, what can we learn from that?
Well, one interesting thing is if I look back at it, as painful as all of that final separation was, I also don't know if we would have got there without the partnership. So,
Mm.
it got us somewhere that ended up kind of painful, and we eventually got out of it. But um, maybe we could have done more due diligence. The thing that we did right, and I give Frank a ton of the credit, is that we had like a really strong operating agreement that helped to define situations that could happen that you never think are going to happen at the beginning when
Yeah.
everything is just roses and exciting and we're buying this building. But luckily, that operating agreement really spelled out a lot of the things that you hope never happen in business. So the operating agreement, that was
So
super
this is
helpful. And
different
then,
to shareholder. So a shareholder, I heard of shareholder agreement. I never heard of operating agreement. Is that same or different?
I haven't done a shareholder agreement, but it's essentially a partnership agreement. So
Yep.
a lot of things are spelled out as far as, over a certain threshold of spend, there has to be a certain amount of partner agreement. And it was nice when we first bought the building, we had a very minority partner who had helped us broker the whole deal, find the building. He was in at like a 2% share. What was really nice about that is that left the other four of us splitting 98%, but it also
Mm.
made him a tiebreaker vote
Oh.
between the four
Mm.
partners.
Mm.
We eventually bought him out because that was his goal was, um, you know, and it almost got a little bit harder when then it was like two versus two. But
Mm.
within the operating agreement, there are a lot of like very specified things that say require three owners approval for it to
Mm.
happen, like big business decisions. Um, Certain things, when we separated with the help of lawyers, I also signed agreements that said I can only talk about so much. So that's where I have to like kind of tread
Yeah,
lightly on
yeah.
this thing because I want to honor that.
Yeah.
Um, but having that strong agreement in place that specified some worst case scenarios helped
Mm.
us when some of those worst case scenarios happened. Um,
Mm.
on top of that, I would say uh, my forum was probably the most helpful part of getting through this because it was
Mm.
multiple years that things were getting really challenging. And to have other business owners who like knew me well, knew what we were going through, I got a ton of good advice and support through my forum, and then having a really good legal team who also understood us. And really like really helped guide us through that because I've never been through something like that, like going through
Mm,
mediation and trying to figure out how to get out of a tough situation.
yeah. How long was the total process of that scary
Let's see.
time?
So we bought the building 15 years ago. I think we bought them out about 5 or 6 years ago. So we
Hmm.
probably had, almost 10 years or so of partnership. There were challenges from the beginning.
Hmm.
We're all very different. But the last couple years were really painful. Like once we knew it was like,
Yeah.
um, and it's so hard too because once again, it's sort of that divorce feeling where we have all these
Yeah.
tenants, all these businesses in our company that we care about. Our business is in the building. We're
Mm,
trying to get through this, like, what's the best way to solve the problems, but at the same time, we don't want our customers to be feeling that and questioning
mm,
who's running this thing.
yeah.
I think we did pretty good through those couple years, but it was really it was crushing. It was super crushing.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it. And usually tough times build tougher people. So how do you feel like you have evolved thanks to that? How did you think that that helped you to become a better leader or a better, you learned a better way to manage your own emotions?
Well, first off, it gives me a massive appreciation for the partnership that I do
Mm,
have with Frank because, we've been at this for 20 plus years. We've probably known each other 30 years. And back in Vermont for a while, like even our wives who are our girlfriends then, like we all lived in a house together.
mhm,
Like we were very like this has been a long journey. So the appreciation of having a partner that even if we don't completely agree, at least we can get to a good result. And I know like and now I'm super gun shy about other partnerships, but I can also see that while it can be challenging, I also don't think I'd be here at all without a
mm,
partner. So like it's easy to
mm,
complain about them, but I'd rather just try to appreciate the good parts of it. Same
yeah.
with my marriage and the partnership and everything that Allison's been through and helped me through all this stuff. So I hope it's given me a better appreciation for the things that work well. It's definitely made me a bit more um like gun shy, or at least we almost did another real estate deal recently, and
Mm,
once it started, a couple yellow flags were kind of going up, and um, I'm just like so much more on edge about not
uh-huh.
ending up in a situation like that again.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you're just a lot more alert, aware, and following your gut feeling because it sounded like at the beginning there was already some problem, but you really thought things were going to be better versus, getting worse. So it's about getting out before it's too late. Um, Now, let's talk about your EO experience. I know you mentioned even your kids and your wife is quite involved, and it's almost like this EO family. And yeah, I joined about 3 years ago, and I love it. And you've been in it for 11 years or so, and you're loving it. And so, I'd love to hear why even your family is involved.
Yeah. Sorry, it looks so hot too. It's like super hot day in Denver today. Like it's like 100 plus degrees. I think that's what 35 or 38 Celsius.
Oh God,
So,
yeah.
um, so I first learned about EO because one of our tenants in our building was an EO member, and he was actually hosting an event or something, and I started asking about it, and I was like, oh, I wonder if I can get into that. And I wasn't sure if we were financially even there. Um, an interesting part of that story is, well, first I asked, can you combine two businesses revenue to qualify? And I was told I could. So I reached out to our fractional CFO and said, I need this letter. And I hope we have $1 million in revenue and whatever. And she got back to me and she was like, no, you guys have already done $1 million with Public Works. Like I thought we are gonna have to combine the two. And it was that response was the first time I knew that we'd actually even crossed that threshold. So that was kind of funny.
Mm.
Um, so it joined and I was just all in immediately. And actually that guy, Dave Bacon, is the guy who introduced me. He's a bit of a legend in EO. So I hope that other people watching this have probably either met Dave or heard Dave because he's a loud, energetic guy. Yeah, so Dave introduced me to it, and the first forum I joined, there were five of us, and four of those original forum members are still forum members of mine now, and we kind of combined with another forum several years ago.
Mm.
So I've had four continuous forum members of the 11 years I've been in, and the other eight of us, I think, are maybe at least 7 years consistent now.
Mm.
I joined the board the first year, doing learning chair, and it's just been like every experience. I think going to GLC for the first time was where I really felt that, like sitting at a table surrounded by entrepreneurs from all over the world, and you could have someone sitting next to you from Nepal and someone across the table from China, and
Yes.
immediately be in these like deep 5% conversations.
Mm.
Um, I try to tell everyone it's not a networking group. It's not like I always say it's sort of like therapy for entrepreneurs, and we also have a lot of fun and learn stuff.
Yeah.
Um, the journey's been it's been super cool. I've run a bunch of different events from heli ski trips to we've got our fourth MyEO European riverboat charter coming up.
Mm.
Um, so that's been great. My wife joined a spousal forum, I think
Uh-huh.
7 years ago. For a while, there was only one spousal forum in Colorado, and she's now the longest member in that forum, and she's super involved in the chapter. I think at this point, Allison probably knows as many people in EO as I do. And then, through all the different family events and different
Mm.
things, my kids have just been involved. And, my daughter's 20 now, but I mean, so 10 years ago, she was a small kid, 10 years.
Yeah.
And so they've kind of got to grow up through it, meet all these different people, go to these events, see that I'm not the only crazy one around
Yeah.
here. But just recently, my daughter started assisting our Colorado chapter admin. So at our
Ah,
last, yeah,
amazing.
it was so cool. So at our last chapter retreat, Natasha was there helping out Nanette. And it's just really cool to see like so many of the members know Natasha. And then this time they saw her like behind the desk, handing out like name badges and organizing things and passing the microphone around the event. And what's so amazing is as she's considering pursuing law, I've put that out, and
Mm.
a lot of people have helped her, through the
Mm.
chapter, connect with other lawyers in the field she's thinking about and stuff. But at one point during check-in during our retreat, I think there were four EO members standing there that were all in the law field, and they all
Mm.
know her, and they're all talking about like supporting her and if she has any questions or wants to intern. And to me, I think that's the essence of what we're all doing here is
Yeah.
everyone supporting each other. Within our forum, we've tried to be really active and engaged with each other's kids also, so that
Mm.
they know that we're like a large support system.
Oh my God, I love that. I haven't heard that perspective before. Yeah, because I have kids. I'm still at the moment trying to get my husband to understand what EO is. I don't know about you. Did you have that period where your wife did understand what you're doing and then she eventually got into it, or?
Yeah, I think at the beginning it felt more like a frat or something to her, like a fraternity. I think the more she got to meet the people and see what we were doing, that I think she gained an appreciation. And then the more she got involved and joined the spousal forum, and as we've done more of these trips and these big riverboat trips where we have 100 people on them, and a lot of them are EOers and spouses, significant life partners and stuff. I it's and I know this doesn't work for every relationship, but for us, when EO shifted from being more for me to being for us,
Mm,
it was a huge change in the
yeah,
acceptance. And also it made a big difference for me and how I think about the investment of time and money, that it's
yeah.
not just a me thing.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that amazing testimonial. Um, Now, looking back, 15 years ago, starting the business, what did the term success meant for you? Like, why did you want to start a business compared to now that you've evolved? You're older now, you've gone through EO. Has that term changed for you? How are you living your life right now?
Yeah, it's an interesting question too. I At the beginning, I think all I could think about is like, can we do this and can we pay the bills?
Mm,
Even when we bought the building, it was the scariest thing I've ever done. I rolled everything I had from
mm,
the retirement account I had going since I worked at Burton, like rolled everything in to be able to come up with my 25%. Alls I could think about is like, can we pay the bills and is this going to
Mm.
work? At no point in the early days, especially buying the building, did I ever even think like this might be an investment or actually cash flow, or like alls I could think about is like, is this gonna just crush us and I'm gonna lose my house and like everything.
Mm.
Um, but with the public works, I think Frank and I were kind of lucky because we both had freelance clients going on our own, and we rolled that into essentially launching the agency. I think we were driven by like quality of life and just doing what we love. So if we could pay the bills and we could end up with clients that were in the snowboard industry or skiing or resorts, and so if we were paying the bills but also having a really good time, we were pretty much like that was success. We're having a good time.
Mhm.
That has like that was probably the most of the last 20 years. I think we're finally reaching the point where we're like, okay, we're kind of grown up now. Maybe we should think about like what's this where's this business go from here? Where does it go after us? Like, can we do more for the people that have been with us on this journey that might want to keep it going longer than we want to be in it? So
Mm.
I think I just turned 51 years old, which I'm still
Mm.
trying to come to terms with, but I don't know. Sometimes I feel it, sometimes I don't. But I we just hit this point where I really think it's the first time we're thinking about that next chapter, that next season.
Mm.
Till now, we've been chasing just quality of life and having fun. And if I can get paid to go snowboarding, I'm pretty happy.
I love that. It's actually very different to, I guess, most entrepreneurs I know. They work too hard and sometimes they don't have fun. And yet, I guess you've already made the journey very enjoyable. So that's a good thing. There's no regret, right? Because just like Travis, I think we both know him. He's all
Yeah.
about people working too hard, living a life with regrets. So I think that's awesome. So what has helped you to kind of explore this next phase? What's your first few steps that you've taken to, because I think
Mm.
many people
Yeah.
who are in EO, I think most of us in our 40s to late 40s or even 50s, and so it will be interesting to see what you've done so far.
Yeah, so in our forum, the eight of us, we're pretty close in age and pretty close in um business life cycle, I think.
Mm.
So it's been very interesting watching the evolution of our even our forum conversations and our businesses to where yeah, 10 years ago we weren't talking that much about exit plans or do we need someone to help us
Mhm.
figure this out, or how do you do evaluation of a service-based business and all that kind of
Mhm.
thing. Um my business part, Frank's a bit older than me. Um, and like it was only a month or two ago where he sort of said for the first time, like kind of what he thought his timeline to exit was. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Like we've never really talked all that much about this because we've just been just running to keep up and like do the next
Mhm.
thing, but we weren't looking that far out. So, in our I'm sure it's common, but like in our forum, we talk a lot about the seasons of life. And
Mhm.
for me now, having kids that are fairly independent, they're both almost out of the house, they're self-sufficient, where the business is at, all of those things. It's just, I think it's sort of the first time we've actually been able to like take a breath, think a bit, and be like, what is not just over the next bump, but like what's kind of over that next mountain. So I think it's just maybe I'm finally growing up a little.
No, so my husband is about to turn 50. He's also very excited about kind of winding down and retiring. And he's married to me, I'm in my early 40. I'm still going. And so that actually created a bit of a dynamic because I feel like we're in different seasons. So how
Mhm.
is it like for your wife? Like, are you on the same page about your life steps ahead together?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. We talk about it quite a bit. Luckily, Allison has always had a very, she's always had the more grounded career. She works in a hospital as a registered dietitian, and that hospital is owned by a very large company. So she has a much more um, stabilized career. But
Mhm.
I think we're pretty aligned. And this summer, we still own a cabin back in Vermont. And this summer, we went back for 3 weeks. I worked most of the time, but it gave a taste of that. Like maybe we
Mm,
can wind down a bit. I don't see retirement or stopping anytime soon. I see it
mm,
as like an evolution of like what we're working on and how and maybe what my day-to-day role is. I like everything we're doing too much to stop,
mm,
but some more freedom and I don't know, and you were asking about steps. Like we've been working with a lawyer, we've been working with our financial planner, like kind of putting a
mm,
team together that helps us think bigger, and that's been really interesting. Another former EO Colorado person has a company that's all about exit planning and strategy. We had a
mm,
first conversation just about that, and I found a lot of it interesting because I think so much of it has to do with running a really good company today, not just 7 years out, but like what can we do better now to be a better company in 7 years? Just today I was on an email that there's the EO Harvard Business School. There's like a
mm.
3-day thing going on
Program.
in September that's
Mm,
all about exit. And it was
mm,
really cool too because I looked at who had signed up on that, and the list is so international. And that's almost what made me want to go do that even more because it's pretty expensive. I'm like, I don't know
yeah.
about it's an investment, right? It's like,
Yeah, yes.
but then I looked at the all the people already signed up and I was like, wow, what an amazing group. And even without all the education that's planned there, you can already tell that you're probably going to meet some people that change the course of your
Mm,
life just by being there. So I
yeah.
love all that kind of like next chapter thinking.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah, I've heard great things about the Harvard program. I'm planning. It's one of my bucket lists to do as well. So you let me know how you go.
You're in Melbourne, right? Melbourne
Sydney,
chapter?
in Sydney.
Sydney. Okay. I think I saw
Yeah.
someone was on the list from Melbourne.
Yeah, yeah. I've heard, yeah, many programs that, like there's a Bond University in Australia, and I think that also attracts people from overseas. There's just so many programs in EO. That's the problem. The buffet is so
Hmm.
you don't know what to choose. Now, this leads me to, I guess, my last question around, as you're thinking about your next stage in life, ultimately, what do you want to be remembered for? Or what's the impact that you want to make on this earth?
I've always joked that my tombstone would just say never paid retail, just because I've spent my entire life trying to finagle deals on snowboards and skis and dirt bikes and whatever. But I'm not sure that's quite the legacy I want. But there's a quote that has been part of our business that we've referred to for a really long time, and I won't give the whole quote, but it essentially says, "The master in the art of living draws little distinction between their work and their play."
Mm,
And I think that's part of it. Like I would hope that people have seen like how hard I love to think I like work super hard to be able to play hard, and I play really hard to be able to work hard, and it kind of just all blurs. And if I'm having a super good time, but someone's actually paying me to do it, that's like the best day ever. So there's part of that. There's an author out of Colorado, Jim Collins, who wrote Built to Last, and great
mm-hmm.
book.
Mm,
If I'm not screwing this up, he wrote the hedgehog concept, which kind of talks about that. Like if you can align what you're good at with being paid, that's sort of like the
mhm.
hedgehog. We I feel like the next step of that, which this probably maybe sums up more where my head is at. Like I like to call it the conscious hedgehog, which is if I can do things that add value and they're fun, but if I can figure those out and they actually do something good for either other people around me or other organizations or the environment, then to me that's what I hope I can do, and I hope that's what I end up being remembered for is like, yeah, like how can you have a bunch of fun while maybe paying the bills and add value to the people around you? I think that's my ultimate goal.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Mike. I totally agree with you. I think as we get older, we realize that the joy comes in in giving, and the purpose of our life is actually figuring out what we're good at and then serve others. So, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak with you today. It looks like you're in some park somewhere. Are you about to
I'm
go
in my
somewhere,
backyard.
travel somewhere? Okay.
I'm in our camper, but I'm in
Okay.
our backyard. It's just a very quiet and kind of calm spot. So
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I'll make sure to leave all your details in our YouTube video description so that they can connect with you. But thank you so
yeah,
much.
I appreciate you doing this. The stories you've been sharing they're awesome. I look forward to watching a whole
Thank
bunch
you.
more of them.